Somewhere between the group stage and the quarterfinals, something strange started happening to the World Cup's international fans. It wasn't a red card. It wasn't a controversial VR call. It was a sauce cup. 4 months before the tournament, visiting fans packed the same joke in their carry-ons: America means bad food. Big, bland, and beige. They landed ready to tolerate the food and worship the football. Instead, somewhere between a drive-through window and a gas station counter, the tolerance turned into full surrender. This is the story of how a continent's worth of skeptics lost the only match nobody saw coming, the one against their own stomachs. It started small. A side cup. White, unassuming, sitting next to a basket of fries like it was nothing. Ranch dressing. European fans had heard of ranch the way you hear of a minor celebrity, vaguely, without curiosity. Then they tasted it. Within days, clips were circulating of fans dunking pizza crusts in it, drowning wings in it, and, in scenes that would have gotten them arrested in parts of Naples, pouring it directly onto pasta. Airport security noticed too. Fans were reportedly stuffing bottles of the stuff into checked luggage like contraband, prompting lighthearted warnings from airport staff not to try sneaking it into carry-on bags. A condiment had become a smuggling operation. Ask a nutritionist and they'll tell you it's just buttermilk, garlic, and herbs. Ask a Swedish tourist mid-bite and they'll tell you it's a religious experience. Somewhere in between those two answers is the actual truth: ranch didn't change anyone's biology. It just gave people permission to enjoy something they weren't supposed to admit they liked. The second shock was structural, not culinary. Fans discovered that one of the country's most popular fried chicken chains closes its doors every single Sunday, no matter how busy the World Cup crowds got. To visitors raised on the idea that American business never sleeps, this looked like heresy. Then they ate the sandwich. The verdict, again and again, sounded less like a food review and more like a confession. The pickle was too big. The bun was too soft. The sauce had no business tasting that good. And the fries, cut into waffle shapes for reasons nobody could explain, became a minor obsession of their own. What actually got people, though, wasn't the chicken. It was the service. Staff who said, "My pleasure," instead of a shrug. Refills brought without being asked. For fans used to the brisk indifference of a corner cafe back home, that kind of warmth from a fast food counter felt almost suspicious, like the beginning of a con they were happy to fall for. Next stop, a chain with exactly one thing on the menu. Chicken fingers, fries, bread, coleslaw. That's the whole operation. To fans expecting variety, the stripped-down menu looked like a trap. It wasn't. It was focus. Every piece of chicken came out hot, crisp, and never dry, a level of consistency most fast food chains only promise in their advertising. Then came the sauce. A pale orange, peppery, creamy concoction that fans started calling liquid gold without a hint of irony. Visitors who'd never think to dip garlic bread in a dipping sauce back home were suddenly doing exactly that, one soggy, delighted bite at a time. The lines stretching around the block weren't about hunger. They were about faith. Texas barbecue operates on a different timescale than the rest of the culinary world. 16 hours of smoke for a single slab of brisket. No fine china, just butcher paper and a scale. Fans who'd built their idea of fine dining around plating and ambience found themselves standing in line in triple-digit heat, waiting to be handed meat on paper. And then the first bite landed, and the fork became optional. The brisket didn't need cutting. It surrendered on its own. The aftermath had a name too: meat sweats, the very real, very sweaty consequence of a body working overtime to process an amount of protein most people back home would spread across a week. A single tray, easily over a kilo of meat, left visitors questioning both their appetite and their cardiologist's phone number, and paying the bill without a single complaint. By 1 a.m., something else revealed itself, a glowing yellow sign that never goes dark. Waffle House doesn't just serve breakfast, it serves an entire subculture of the exhausted, the drunk, and the recently heartbroken, 24 hours a day, every day, including the days a hurricane is bearing down on the building. International fans, still buzzing from a night out, wandered in and encountered a coded language they didn't know they needed to learn: hash browns, scattered, smothered, covered, options stacked on options. It baffled them for exactly one order. Then the plate arrived, and the confusion turned into loyalty. What stuck with people wasn't just the food. It was being called honey by a waitress who'd clearly seen far stranger customers than a jet-lagged football fan at 2 a.m. It felt, more than one visitor said, like the most honest room in the country. At a mid-range chain famous for its endless menu, fans ordered what they thought was a starter and received what looked like dinner for 6. Fried cheese, sliders, and chicken wings arrived on a single tray under a name that promised only a fraction of what showed up. More than one group attempted to finish it alone and lost, badly, on camera. It was here that visitors learned the real distinction between an American appetizer and a European one. Back home, an appetizer wakes up your appetite. In America, it tests whether you have one left by the time the main course shows up. On the West Coast, a different kind of cult was waiting, one built on a burger chain with a menu so short it barely fills a sign, and a second menu that exists nowhere except in the collective memory of everyone who's ever ordered from it. Animal-style fries. A double burger stacked with grilled onions. None of it printed anywhere, all of it delivered in under 10 minutes despite lines that wrap around the building. European visitors, used to fast food meaning a compromise, were stunned to find a chain where speed and quality weren't in competition with each other. The debates that followed, one burger chain versus its East Coast rival, got more heated in group chats than most of the actual football did. At a chain famous for its sprawling menu, fans were handed something closer to a small book than a list of dishes. Reading it took longer than some group stage matches. Before they'd even decided what to order, a basket of warm bread showed up, free, unasked for, and dangerously easy to finish before the entree arrived. More than one visitor admitted to filling up entirely on bread and regretting it the second their actual meal landed. Dessert solved everything. A single slice of cheesecake, rich enough to double as two separate meals, became the one item everyone agreed was worth the wait, the bread mishap, and the multi-page menu combined. At the bottom of the price scale and the top of the cult-following chart sat a chain serving burritos stuffed with melted cheese, sold for less money than fans expected to pay for a bag of chips. Visitors who'd grown up skeptical of fast food, Mexican food back home found themselves defending this chain, unprompted, in group chats and comment sections. Was it authentic? No. Did that matter, somewhere around the third bite? Also no. The final stop wasn't a restaurant at all. It was a gas station the size of a small shopping mall, with over 100 fuel pumps and a food counter turning out fresh brisket sandwiches on the spot. Fans left with tanks full of gas and bags full of snacks, sweet popcorn-like treats that somehow became the single most requested souvenir of the entire trip. Nobody could explain why a gas station food counter outperformed actual restaurants back home. They just accepted it and bought a second bag for the flight. By the time the tournament ended, the football was only half the story fans brought home. The other half was a slow, bite-by-bite surrender to a food culture they'd arrived ready to mock. Maybe it's genuinely that good. Maybe it's just abundance doing what abundance always does, wearing down resistance one plate at a time. Either way, plenty of visitors flew home with fewer prejudices, a few extra pounds, and one uncomfortable question they can't quite shake. Which one dish would you trade a full day's calories for? No questions asked.